Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to my channel. This is Denice Garrou again, and look who I got. I got Sharon Daphna back.
Thanks,
And those of
Denise.
you watching, and today we're not just going to talk about anything today. Today we're going to talk about her book
Yay.
that came out. This textbook. This is quite an undertaking here, you guys. So we're be discussing this today. This is so exciting. This is so fascinating because I think, Sharon, you are the go-to gal when it comes to chemtrails in Orgonite.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really do. I think so. But okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a preview. I'm just going to read the last paragraph to her book description just to kind of wet your whistle a little bit. And we'll go into discussion after that. So, yeah, she starts out with it. Reader beware. Invisible Soldiers' Silent War tells the full story of the energetic war without sugarcoating. You will never see the world the same way again, and you will find that problems that seemed insurmountable can be overcome by renewing your mind and changing your life. In an upside down and backwards world, Invisible Soldiers' Silent War brings everything back on the right track again. If you like things the way they are, don't read this book. But I think the people who are watching this video, they're going to read this book because they're going to, they're not the sit on the couch scratching their bellies eating potato chip kind of people.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Because you have to be involved in this. You can't just expect it all to go away. If you're looking up and you don't like what you see in the sky and you complain about it, you're only going to make it worse.
That's right. And we're going to talk about that too. So, Invisible Soldiers, Silent War, Orgone Energy, and the Planetary Emergency. Okay, so I want to start out with your journey, how it started, and why chemtrails. Why did you start this massive journey?
Well, it was not something I planned on, and it was never anything I thought about. The first time I ever heard of chemtrails, it was the year 2010. So now it's 10 years ago that I first even heard the word chemtrails. And when I heard about it, I was actually at the farmer's market and I was buying some coffee beans from my coffee guy. And he pointed at it. He said, "Look, they're spraying chemtrails in the sky." And I looked up and I said, "Isn't that just what planes do?" I saw a line behind the plane and I was just like, okay, I've seen that a million times. What is that? Just a, exhaust? And he says, "Oh, they're doing it on purpose. They're spraying it as a poison." He was just saying that they're doing this on purpose up there. The government's doing this. And I looked up and I was like, well, maybe, but what can I do about that? And I really forgot about it after that. I didn't think about it again because I was just thinking, okay, there's pollution in the sky. There's pollution down here from the cars. What's the difference? And then it was only after I met my husband, when at the time we just started dating, and that was in late 2011, and he said something about it. And I said, okay, I heard about this before. But what is it? And he said, "Oh, they're spraying it to make us stupid." And I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. People are pretty stupid and seem to be getting stupider. So maybe there's something to this. So I started looking into it. And he showed me a documentary on it, which was called What in the World Are They Spraying? And I'm sure a lot of people have heard of this Michael Murphy documentary. And that's where I got started in it, is knowing that there was something going on up there that was not normal airplanes flying and just normal exhaust. However, I will say that that film left me hopeless and scared because it looked like there was nothing we could do. And that's where my journey began, because I realized, yeah, I don't feel so good. In fact, I've been feeling worse and worse over the years. Something must be causing this. And I attributed it to the pollution. Although now we know, long after beginning this journey, that it is actually an energetic problem more than a pollution problem. And we'll get into that. But at the time, that's how I got started. Was I was deeply concerned that there was something going on up there that was hurting us down here, and something had to be done about it. At the time, I had no idea what, because I didn't know it was energetic, and I didn't know that there was a solution to it. So I began as an activist, and I would go to protests against chemtrails, and I would try to tell everybody, look up, look what they're doing. And that's how I began it. And I started my blog in 2013 because I still hadn't discovered Orgonite, because I was so upset that no one was listening to me. So I thought, okay, no one's listening to me, but if I put this out online, maybe some people I don't know will start to become concerned too and keep up with this.
I know, I was just talking to someone the other day. Well, no, it was a couple of months. It was before the invisible enemy stuff started, and we were getting sprayed. It'd been pretty quiet, and then I noticed we were getting sprayed again. And I said to someone, I said, "Look at the chemtrails up there. It's been quiet in there, And I told him what I do, and he goes, "Well, I don't know. My wife, she's a counselor and a scientist. She doesn't believe in them." He says, "What? Can you just ignore them?" And so that frustration. So I know how you feel about the frustration.
Right. I'm past that point, but I was at that point back then. And,
Yeah.
and the thing of it is the woman who says they don't exist, in a way, she's right. And we're going to get more into that too, because what we've been taught by the anti-geoengineering groups and these films that Michael Murphy put out, Geoengineering Watch, all of these organizations against chemtrails, or supposedly against chemtrails, they're all pretty well funded. So my book explains that too. There's this whole other layer of information that's being given to us to appease those of us who see it, but without giving us a solution. But there's so much more to it than what we've been told by them. And they talk about it as we're being sprayed with pollutants. And the people who say, well, they don't actually exist, they're just water vapor, there is actually a happy medium where we find the real truth to it. So in actuality, it is an energetic war. And what you're seeing up there is there may be pollution up there, but there also is a lot of real water vapor, real clouds that have just been compromised by energetic warfare. So when you look up there and you say, oh, it's just all spray, it's all chemicals, actually almost everything you see up there is in fact water vapor, like the mainstream scientists say. But what the mainstream scientists aren't telling you, and what the geoengineering activists aren't telling you, is that that water vapor is being hit with deadly energy, and that's why it's taking on that appearance. So there's this real middle ground where we find the truth to this, which is that it's energetic warfare. And yes, it is a war on us, but it's not what the anti-geoengineering people will have us think.
Okay.
Complicated. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
complicated. I can explain
Yeah.
it all more in detail, but
Yeah. So it's being hit. Who is doing the sending? And
are you ready for this? We're in an interplanetary war. We are in an interdimensional war. There's a war on humanity by beings that aren't human. And I think people are aware that there's an extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional influence on Earth. But in fact, the real war on humanity is not human against human. It's another race of beings against human. And that's what my book gets into, but it took years to figure this out, because we always thought, oh, it's the government doing this, it's the government. And then we saw more and more strange things up there, more and more oddities that couldn't be explained from a government or military standpoint. They could only be explained from something beyond human technology. And we realized that while we think it's the government spraying us, we have to take a look at what kind of technology the government actually has. And what we're seeing up there is something beyond normal human ability. What they're doing is they're terraforming our world. This world is a life-affirming environment for all of us carbon-based life forms, and we thrive on life force energy, Orgone energy, and that's the main energy that really governs the Earth and the universe. However, the parasitic entities that have been feeding off of this world for eons, they thrive on the opposite frequency, which is deadly radiation. So what they're doing up there is, and I'm not saying that there aren't pollutants, what I am saying is that nobody's been able to prove what they are. And the government actors that are coming forward as whistleblowers saying it's heavy metals, they are government actors. They work for the government. Clifford Carnicom worked for Bureau of Land Management and the Department of Defense. He is totally in with the government. Nobody's ever never said anything to him about, you can't say this stuff. He's never gotten killed over saying this stuff. So what he's saying is obviously government approved information. They're telling us it's heavy metals. In actuality, we don't know what's up there. It could be an element we're not even aware of on Earth. But most of what you see as far as the white stuff in the sky is in actuality natural earthly water vapor that's being bombarded with deadly radiation so that it spreads out, coherent clouds can't form, and pollution lingers. I can explain more of the science of that too, but we are actually looking at an energetic war more so than a physical and biological war. I'm not saying it's not a war, and I'm not saying chemtrails are not warfare. It's just different than what they're telling us.
More the reason to get your book, because I'm sure it's all in there. So these entities that are terraforming. They want to make this planet so they can live here.
Exactly.
Do you think these are the same ones? You know, I watched that movie, There Are No Forests on Earth. Do you think they're the same ones that mined the top of this planet?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And my book explains that a little bit too. I'm sure you saw the part about the evidence for Silicon era of life on Earth. This planet has been under attack for eons. Wilhelm Reich, who discovered Orgone Energy, he was doing work out in the Arizona desert, and he was bringing rainfall to places that had been in drought for years using Orgone Energy. Our own life force energy is what brings life to Earth. It brings life to us. It creates clouds and rain. It's just, it is what we are. It's the energy of creation. And he was out there doing this work. And in the course of doing his work, he discovered the extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional influence. He had his cloudbuster, which was the Orgone Energy device, aimed up at the sky. And at nighttime, he had it aimed up there, and he saw a star flicker, fade, and retreat. And so he realized that's not a star. And he saw it again and again, that when he was putting Orgone Energy into the atmosphere, these UFOs that were up there just hovering, which we thought were stars because we weren't paying attention, they would retreat. So the life force energy was repelling those entities. And at the same time, he and his staff, while they were doing their work, when those entities were present, they would feel terrible symptoms. They would feel etheric attacks, malaise and physical illness symptoms, depression. You become actually suicidal and kind of crazy sometimes when you're bombarded with deadly radiation. This is their weapon against us, is DOR, deadly radiation. And Wilhelm Reich was the first to discover it. He told the Air Force about it. They did nothing about it. In fact, his work was completely suppressed, and he was put in jail for using Orgone Energy in cancer treatment. That was the reason they put him in jail. And we never really he never got to finish his work to the point where we could learn exactly how we could use it. So that's where we and other Orgonite gifters come in, is we've taken his work and we've figured out how we can use it now, every day in our own lives, to protect ourselves from deadly radiation and to clean up our sky. So yes, this is an energetic war through and through. Everything you see up there, whatever pollution is up there, it's indeterminate, but we do know that Orgone Energy repels pollution. It repels these entities, and it repels deadly radiation. So it's the solution, any way you look at it.
Well, you know, what people don't realize is that we are of the earth and the earth is us. We're all interconnected, and we have this symbiotic connection. And, you know, I think about this deal that we're going through right now. We're wearing face masks. You know, we're not trees. We don't breathe in carbon dioxide. And how it just seems like it's a frequency war going on. They're
Yes.
doing all that they can to lower our vibration,
Exactly.
because they want to lower the vibration of this planet too.
Yes, they need to lower the vibration of the planet. And so when you see chemtrails up there on a day where it's really ugly, that's a day where their energy is dominating. But watch it throughout the day, because the earth energy always cleans it up. So even if you don't have the orgonite in your environment, the earth itself is an orgone generator, and all of its creatures, the trees, the animals, and us, we're all OR generators. So you'll see it clean up, and usually by the end of the day, it's better. especially nowadays because there's orgonite worldwide everywhere now. But yes, they want to lower the frequency because their frequency is low. And in order for them to live here, they need a deadly environment. They need air pollution. So that's not just chemtrail pollution, but smog. They need this pollution lingering. They need drought conditions. They want everything dead. And that's their life is death. So they're the opposite of us. They're inverted. And we need it completely the opposite of what they need. And again, they are also silicon-based life, most likely. We don't really know who they are. We can't see them, but they're not like us. They hate carbon-based life forms. And they do hate trees. They do hate trees for producing oxygen, and they hate us for producing carbon.
You know, that's really interesting because here in Colorado, the last 10 years or so, we've been losing our trees to beetle and all these other diseases now. And I just noticed where we are at. I noticed just a mile down the road in our subdivision, we have all these, I love pinyon trees. So we have the pinions, the pines, the lodgepole pines, they've already taken a beating. You know, that's why we build here with beetle kill, because most of our trees are dead from the beetle kill. But now I'm seeing that the pinions are being attacked by some kind of they call it a scale that kills the little needles of the trees. And so I think that, you know, they're systematically killing off all the trees too.
Yeah, they hate trees so much that there's a war on trees. Trees are the lifeblood of this planet. They're the oxygen providers, as well as the oceans. They really do have a war on trees. Up here, we have the same issue. We're also in the mountains. We also have the bark beetle issue. However, we've been in this location for 4 years, and in the time we've been here, we've massively gifted it with orgonite, and we've seen countless new trees. You can't even count the baby trees coming in. So when you see the dead trees and you see dozens of these tiny baby trees just filling in everywhere, you can see that the life force energy is prevailing. And we've had way less of a bark beetle problem. I even saw a tree the other day while hiking, which was a dead tree with new live shoots coming out of it. Gabe, my husband, pointed it out to me. I was astonished. So you can actually see the resurgence of life when you restore life force energy. And by the way, pine needle decay like that, the death of pine needles, is associated with EMF, with the electromagnetic fields. There have been scientists that have found a connection between pine needle death like that and EMF.
Oh.
So we are looking at everything as energy. Everything is energy. So that's why it's very helpful not to look at chemtrails as a physical war, but an energetic war, because when you see them, it's evidence of deadly energy in the atmosphere, more so than pollutants. When we flip the energy to a life-giving energy, and we can use orgonite to do that, you see the pollution lift. It literally lifts and goes out of the sky. And you see return of rainfall, and you see an increase of life. Up here, you can't believe how it's changed in 4 years. It was pretty dry and deserty even when we got here. Now it's green even into the summer. I mean, we get poppies all through the summer, even into the fall, green grass. It's beautiful. And then the Forest Service comes and they just decimate the land. There was one area we totally was beautifully healed. And then the Forest Service comes in and they log all the trees and they cut off the sage, and it's very sad. So yeah, they definitely hate trees and they hate us, but the Forest Service, again, they work for them. Remember, the entities above human that are governing the government.
Yeah. Well, and we see it here too with their prescribed burns that, you know, they go through, you know, and they're burning trees that are hundreds of years old. And, you know, we're just like, this does not make sense at all, you know, but I mean, you know, the indigenous people knew about the connection with this planet and how, you know, for a long time, humanity, there was no connection with this planet anymore. And I think people are starting to reconnect and starting to hear us more. I mean, by you going out and gifting your orgonite, you're talking to her, you're helping her.
It flips the consciousness. And it actually quiets a lot of the electromagnetic noise, because Orgone energy is a spiraling waveform that it goes from Earth into space, and it neutralizes electromagnetic fields all around. So a lot of the electromagnetic fields are how they're controlling people. that's largely how they're doing it, by suppressing the consciousness. When we gift Orgonite, it neutralizes that to the point where somebody who may be on the fence, they may be starting to think about things differently. It will remove just enough of that noise that all of a sudden their mind is awake. So we're seeing people waking up on a massive scale, and Orgonite gifting is a great way to bring that energy to people who don't even know they're receiving it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that because there is that coil, the spiral coil inside of the Orgonite pieces. Oh gosh, maybe a month and a half ago, I've been getting this. You got to go out and build a spiral wheel.
Yeah.
You have to go out and build a spiral wheel. And I built a 30-foot spiral wheel in the yard.
That's great. That's
And
amazing.
yes.
What
And
did you use?
I used all the moss rocks around here. And then in the center of it, I have what we call petrified trees with the druzy crystal inside of it.
Those are the ancient silicon trees.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they're
So
the trees that all the rocks came from, the silicon trees.
yes, yes. So we have a lot of that here in Colorado,
That's cool.
So I put some of that in there, and then I have some rainbow bogeys that I put in there. But I use it every morning, and it's amazing because when we moved up here, I'm 8,500 feet, and there really was no birds, and I'm a huge bird woman. I have more birds now. I mean, it is ridiculous.
Yep.
And of course, I'm right away looking up the meaning of the bird, and it's like, yes, that's exactly the right meaning. And it's just like wildlife is returning.
That's
And
great.
yeah.
Us too. Yeah. Orgone Energy. And what you're doing, that you've made a medicine wheel, and medicine wheels are a great opportunity to be creative. There's no right or wrong answer on how to make one. We have an example of one in our book. I said our book because me and Gabe work together. It's actually my book, but he makes a lot of these medicine wheels, and he helped me for years and years doing this work, which is how I was able to write the book. There it is. Yeah, and there's Gabe building a medicine wheel. I can't really see him in there, but there he is. That's on Catalina Island on the beach. We used the white quartz that was washing up on the beach there. There's tons of white quartz in Catalina. All of these crystals, they're part of the ancient silicon life forms, and they hold that memory of life. And you built a medicine wheel, and you're generating this tremendous vortex. And birds are the indicator that you're generating a high OR. Another example of birds is, and on the cover of my book, it's hard to see it. I have my copy here. Where is it? I'm trying to get it in the screen. There's a cell tower there, but you'd have to see it on the cover. I'm on the wrong side. There you go. You can't really see it in the screen here, but there's birds on it. When you see birds on a cell tower, it means it's been gifted with Orgonite, because they won't sit on it because of the deadly radiation. But when you put the Orgonite on there, then they can sit there again. And you've seen a return of birds and wildlife, and so have we. It's unbelievable the amount of wildlife, more and more every year. And even last year, I saw my first jackrabbit in the woods up here. I never saw one for 3 years. And they're not that common up here, but down a little bit over into the next valley, you'll see them everywhere. But up here, I never saw one. And I was astonished to see new wildlife. And also, after I think a couple of decades of not seeing them, wild turkeys were reported seen in our community. They had not been here. So we're seeing a return of wildlife, a return of species. And my book also talks a little bit about that in general in California, sort of near the end of the book, when we're after the culmination of 5 years of Orgonite gifting work. You see an increase in whale populations off the Orange County coast. So all over, animals populations are increasing. But this is why there's such an attack on our forests and nature. They don't want this. The tree life increased, so they cut down the trees. They can't have this much life. They need death because they're inverted, they're parasites. They're behind all of the stuff going on in the world that's bad right now. It's not human. As you know, I mean, humans don't hate each other. They want us to be racist against each other. They want us to hate each other. It's them doing this to the humans. We got to remember who the real enemy is.
Right. Right. Well, and it's like we had one of the worst fires. Colorado, that we're in our fire month now, and it was really interesting because this morning I woke up and it was 39 degrees, and we had a little dusting of snow out there.
Wow.
And I remember you saying, your June is weird. I remember you can have snow in June. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's the Orgonite though. It's the Orgone Energy. You're doing great work out there. It's your good energy and your medicine wheel, just the
yes,
positivity.
yes,
That's
yes.
cool. That is
Yeah.
amazing. We've actually had low 30s at night here too in the mountains. It's been suddenly the energy flipped and it got cool. Cool air is an indicator of high Orgone energy.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool air, rain, snow, these are all indicators of high OR. Heat,
Okay.
drought, pollution, that's an indicator of deadly radiation. It's all energetic. The earth is an energetic being.
Well, and like, I'm up in the mountains and you're up in the mountains, and the mountains emit what, scalar. Is that another word for argon?
Yeah, scalar energy is a non-specific term for these invisible energies. That's why I say orgone, because scalar can be used negatively or positively. But yes, it is a type of a scalar energy. We say orgone. That's Wilhelm Reich's term for it. And yes,
Okay.
mountains do put out a lot of orgone energy. That's why you get the
Okay.
lenticular clouds like we've talked about before. And there's many
Yes.
examples of those in my book. And you'll
Well,
see
and
lenticular clouds even in flatlands when orgonite is gifted as the energy shifts.
and it's funny because you'll see, a lot of us, we think that we get the lenticular clouds sometimes because of the winds that we have, and the winds form the cloud that way. But I've seen lenticular clouds on perfectly calm nights,
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah. They always want to attribute a thermodynamic reason for everything or winds.
Mhm.
And what it is that the same phenomenon that causes the lenticular clouds also causes the wind. That's the high OR. It
Okay.
causes movement because orgone energy, when you have a high orgone energy, everything is moving and flowing. And that the same is in the body. In your body, when your orgone energy is high, you're bioenergetically charged, you're healthy and happy, it's moving. So you have an energy flow in your body. When DOR is present, deadly radiation, that causes stagnation in the atmosphere and in the body, and that's what leads to cancer. You don't want the stagnant energy. It's caused by repressing emotions and feelings. It's caused by environmental pollutions, all kinds of societal repression. It's all interconnected. You want a free-flowing energy. And in the atmosphere, it's the same exact thing that causes those dramatic clouds as that causes the wind. It's generally a release of deadly energy, a transmuting of energy, and an influx of orgone.
Well, I tell you what, the last week we've had really, really high winds, and it's bringing in the cool air.
It's great.
And because otherwise, June is just ridiculously still and hot. And that's when all the fires start. And so, I think, look at the fire in Paradise, California. There's so many people that believe that that fire it was intentionally set. And so
Yeah, it looks that way.
yeah. So I think a lot of our fires, um, it's the same people that hate the trees and want this planet for themselves.
Right. And those aren't people either. So even though humans work for them in the government, you've got humans doing their bidding. Those humans are paid a lot of money to do that for them. And those humans are psychopaths that they can't see right from wrong. So although there are humans doing these things, ultimately what's behind it is not human. It's an attack on our world. It's evil. It's just pure evil. And they've been mining the resources of this planet, and they've been mining the human resources for eons. They literally feed off of our negative energies. They need us to be DOR generators for them. So if we have a contracted OR, our energy is not free flowing, then we're not helping the earth, and we're contributing to the pollution. We actually manifest it with our own minds. I was wondering recently if the weather forecast actually creates the weather. I just had that thought where they say it's going to be this way, and then millions of people read that. Maybe that's having an influence on it because our minds do change the weather. You could see that rain dances, they do produce rain. Blue thunder, otherwise known as rainbow thunderheart, healed a drought in Big Bear that had been going on for years. through rain dance ceremonies, medicine wheel ceremonies. So these things are real. I mean, medicine wheels, intention, prayer, all of the stuff, the crystals, the energy, and our orgonite, which takes all that and puts it into a little device. It makes an Orgone Energy device to help you with what you already have. That all
Yeah.
changes the environment.
Yeah. Oh, I believe what you say because I've done it. I mean, when we were living on the Front Range and we were in a drought and it was spring and we were looking for rain. And I went out and did my little ceremony and my rain dance, and we got 22 inches of snow. And
Wow.
that was like in May.
That's amazing. And that's what happened with Blue Thunder in Big Bear, where he healed the drought. After doing the ceremonies, they got like 2 feet of snow, and everybody, a bunch of people had come up from LA. There were Aztec Indians from Los Angeles that came up to participate. They couldn't get back to LA. They had to stay up there a little longer because they all got snowed in after doing those ceremonies. It really does work.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going to mess with it, you really need to know what you're doing.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, we are very non-destructive as humans, though, because we're harmonious with the earth naturally. It is through bringing in these artificial energies, like deadly radiation, DOR. It's natural in the universe, but the balance is not right on earth. There's too much of it. So it's through bringing in this artificial energy, which is coming from cell phone towers, and in our own lives, it's coming from smartphones and wireless internet. Those things suppress our consciousness. The cell towers suppress the earth energy. And so we're bringing in so much artificial deadly radiation that it's having a negative impact on the climate. That's causing warming, it's causing drought. All the things that they attribute to carbon, it's actually attributed to deadly radiation. But by neutralizing it and abstaining from using it ourselves, there's nothing like a good old fashioned boycott. I know no one will do it, but
right,
when you
like
don't use
gas.
a smartphone, it not only takes money away from the companies that are putting up these cell towers and the 5G everybody's so concerned about, but it protects you because you are the greatest orgone generator in your own life. And when you use that, you're suppressing it. So it doesn't matter how conscious you are, you're never going to reach your potential if you're using an energy that is contrary to your body's energy system.
Well, and you know, to be a really good conscious orgone generator, um, you also need to be grounded and insulated from this planet. We weren't really meant, I think the rubber-soled sneaker was one of the worst things that we could invent because if you watch any documentaries on earthing and how we're not connected to this planet anymore by the shoes we wear, by the how we build our houses, and you know, we're closed inside of that insulated box with all the Wi-Fi going on. You know, we need to turn that around and we need to become more conscious. And you know, I think orgonite, making it and gifting it and making it and putting out there is a conscious choice. You're saying, I'm doing this because I want to make a difference. I'm going to raise my vibration. I'm going to raise the vibration of this planet. And it's so interesting, you know, back to the stories of the animals. I can see that things are really, really happening. And it was last night I went out to my garden. It's my garden right by the front door. And I was watering and I look over and there's this little young chipmunk. And usually if I see a chipmunk, you know, they're gone. And it just looked at me. So I stopped and I started talking to it.
Aw.
And it came up to me. And then I bent down and put my hand out and it crawled on my hand.
Wow, that's
Yes.
amazing.
And, you know, and where we are, we usually don't see chipmunks. I
Oh,
don't see
really?
a lot of
You're
chipmunks.
seeing a return
Yeah.
of species. We do have them here. We have a lot of chipmunks, but yeah, you're seeing a return of species. You're seeing new animals.
Yeah.
It's because of the life force energy. That is
Yes.
wonderful. You know, I've seen pictures of Buddhist monks holding wild animals, petting tigers, holding a deer. It's your energy is so calm that the animals
Yes.
don't fear you.
Right. Right. And so, you know, I think that's bringing in the 5D Earth because, you know, I think that's why people, they like to go in the woods in the weekends. They like to have pets, or they're deep down in their subconscious, they're reconnecting. They're trying to reconnect. They're trying to build this new world. But then with all the negative crap that's, bombarded at us, we lose sight of that. And so, we tend to abuse and mistreat our planet and our animals and our pets. And,
Yeah,
but
we just don't understand it. Like, humans have lost their conscious connection with the earth. Like you said, you're in your house with the Wi-Fi and the cell phone, which are two things I don't use and don't have. And I do highly recommend not having them. My book explains how to live a normal life without them. There's a section on there about creating an EMF safe home or an EMF free home. So I'm still able to go online. I'm still able to make a phone call, but everything's hardwired. You'd be amazed at how much that helps to get the noise out. You're still in your house. You're still separated from nature in that way, but you can remove that negative influence. And yet I totally agree with you about standing on the earth, that we're too insulated from the earth, because grounding, when you go out barefoot, earthing or grounding, you can feel better in an instant doing that. I've had that before where I don't use a smartphone. Like, I have one that I turn on if I have to make a call when I'm out, if there's an emergency. And I was meeting somebody and they were late. So I turned it on and I found out they weren't going to make it. That's why I have it. And then as soon as I was done with it, I was like, oh, I don't feel so good because I don't use it. I'm not used to the deadly energy. I turned it off, wrapped it in foil again, took off my shoes, and it was cold out. There was snow on the ground, but I took off my shoes and stood on the earth. I felt better in literally 30 seconds. Like, it was seconds. And I just immediately felt like all that stuff got out of my body, because it grounds those electrons out. So back to the energy of it, the science of it, the radiation from the smartphones, the Wi-Fi, the cell towers, it's positively ionizing, which means it's putting out extra electrons, and that's filling your body and it's filling the atmosphere. And positive ionization, it makes you feel bad, whereas negative ionization is the healthy, life-giving state. So when you stand on the ground barefoot like that, your body's grounding, literally grounding out all that energy, all those electrons, and then you feel better in an instant. In the sky, the reason you see the flat clouds, the chemtrails, the reason stuff sticks is because of positively ionizing deadly radiation. In that positively ionized field, the hydrogen bond cannot form between water molecules because there are too many electrons. When you flip that energy and you ground out those electrons, you're putting in orgone energy, which is negatively ionizing, then the hydrogen bonds can form between water molecules. So not only do you feel better, but the sky feels better. It creates rain clouds and lifts pollution. Positive ionization holds in pollution, negative ionization releases it. So that's what we're looking at. And there is a scientific explanation for all of these energetic phenomena. So for people who need to know, like, are you just being new age? Or are you just making this up? There's a science to it. That's why you feel better when you ground.
right. Right. Okay, so some of the myths about floating around about chemtrails, you did speak on it a little bit, but you had mentioned a while ago about the planes that we see.
Mm-hmm.
Is some of them holograms?
We think they are. We've taken a lot of pictures, and there's some great examples in the book of planes that are missing sections. I mean, I have this one picture that I took in Joshua Tree, and it was interesting because we were at contact in the desert, and Gabe pointed out, because look at that plane. There was a chemtrail plane flying very, very low, silently, of course, and that's another cue to us that there's something going on up there. They make no sound, the chemtrail planes. They're dead silent. So he pointed at it. I said, wow, that's crazy. I took a picture of it. The entire middle section was invisible. It wasn't showing. It was missing something. I've also seen planes with like glowing parts and just very strange things. They're all in the book. And also orbs surrounding planes. I've gotten pictures of chemtrail planes and there's little dots, little orbs around them. So we think that the planes potentially are a projection to mask something else. Now, I'm not saying I have any proof of it other than the photographs that I think they speak for themselves. I might be able to pull up a little screen share. I have a few photos. If you want, I can show you. Do you want to
Sure.
see?
Can
They're
you?
in the book, but for people who don't have the book, and also if you go to my blog, well, you can go to my website, thechembo.com, and there's a link there to the blog. You could see some of the stuff there. Let me see. Let's see. Share screen. Let me pull up. I have some pictures here. It's just going to take me a minute because I'm a little slow here. Host
As long
participant, host disabled screen sharing. Well, that's okay. I don't mind, but I could just, that's going to be too much work to
how did
figure that out right
okay,
now.
I wonder if I can enable that.
Well, it's not the hugest thing because people can go to my website and see some of this stuff, but we've seen evidence that this is holographic, and the silence of the planes, especially how low they're flying, that speaks volumes. Oh,
Okay.
it says I'm the host now. Okay, let
Yeah,
me see
you're
what
the
I can
host.
do.
You are the host.
All right, I'm going to share my screen, and all right, can you see, let's see some pictures here.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
this is just a couple. I have so many more of these. I want to point out some oddities. Here's a real weird one. Now, I don't have the picture of the half invisible plane here. That you could see that on my book. And
Yeah.
also on my website, I have the best of blog, which has some of this stuff. But do you see on this plane that there's a third trail? I'm going to zoom in a little
Yes.
so you can see it. Do you see the third trail?
Yes.
This
I see it.
plane was flying over my house. It was flying very, very low, low enough that you could get it in this kind of crisp detail. And
Right.
it made no sound. And this is not the only one I've gotten like this. There's a third trail, but it's coming out from the side of the wing up here. What's creating that trail? You've got
Right.
two engines, you've got two trails. What's this one? This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, is I have pictures that show that something weird is going on up there. And there's no government actor that could explain what that third trail is. It doesn't matter, what kind of science degree you have. There's no explanation for that.
I like that government actor.
They're actors, and the geoengineering people,
Yeah.
they're actors. They're here to keep you scared. They never tell you about Orgonite. If
Right.
you tell them about Orgonite, they'll either ignore you or become hostile. Dane Wigington threatened to call the police on me. He called me and told me not to go to his event in Reading back in 2015. That's in the book. He said he'd call the police if we were there sharing information on Orgonite.
Oh,
This is what I'm talking about. And let's see, I have one other I could show you. Another thing that really is pretty telling, this one here, now people are going to try to come up with a physical explanation for this. This is how I'm showing that there's something weird going on and it's not spraying. Now, take a
no,
look. This is in my book too. This trail, there's two engines. Why is the trail taking the entire wingspan? And why is it cutting out? It's not a stopping and starting. So the geoengineering activists will say, when you see them stop and start, they're stopping and starting the spray. But what
oh,
we have found with Orgone Energy and with Orgonite is that Orgonite causes chemtrails to break up, and you'll see them break into pieces because they can't stick. So whatever it's made out of, whether it's, if it's a type of pollution, which I'm sure there is something coming out of the plane, it's repelling it from the atmosphere. But if you look at how this one is cutting in and out, let me just bring it here. There's little piece of it, like here's a piece that cut out, but this one is solid. Here's a piece that cut out, but this one is a little less cut out. It's very glitchy.
right.
And we call it a glitch in the hologram when we see something like this. So those are just a couple of quick examples.
Is that like dimension, a change in dimension coming from a different dimension into our dimension?
Yes, that's what we think is happening here.
Yeah.
Is we see evidence that this is interdimensional travel. I'm going to stop sharing. We see evidence that this is interdimensional travel. Okay, can you see me again? All right.
Yes,
So
I
much
can
stuff on
see
my
it.
screen. I'm not the quickest on the trigger with that kind of stuff. I'm glad I was able to show those pictures. Yeah, there are many, many examples in the book that that show how this could be interdimensional travel. There was a chemtrail spiral we saw in Eastern Oregon when we were gifting. When you gift Orgonite, it creates a spiraling energy, and you'll see spirals in the clouds. So not just the lenticular clouds, which are round, but that round shape repeats in many different ways. You'll often see spirals, like it'll spiral up and away. And we were out in Oregon, we were gifting Orgonite, and we were driving towards Bend, towards the sunset, and out west, I saw a chemtrail spiral, but it wasn't in the direction of Portland Airport, because I was thinking, okay, we could make a physical explanation for this. We could say these planes are all landing at the airport, but it wasn't where the Portland International Airport was. It was north of there. And also we were in Bend, really far. That's 4 hours from Portland, by the way. This spiral looked like, because of the high orgone, the planes were losing control. We often see planes curving when we see chemtrails curving when we gift Orgonite. So it's not just the clouds that do it, but the trails themselves. we see this as evidence that the planes are losing control of their navigation, or whatever type of craft it is losing control. Out in the eastern sunset, there was a tremendous spiral of chemtrails, like going down a drain, and every plane that would fly towards it would just spiral into it. And it looked to me like they were losing control. So the spiral shape comes up again and again because Orgone Energy is spiraling. There are so many examples in my book of these oddities. I just don't see this as a military operation. They just don't have that kind of technology. And the military, believe me, they have flown planes over my house to intimidate me, and they're nothing like the chemtrail planes.
Well, I think it just takes people to look away from their phones and social media and start noticing the anomalies up there. It's just all part of the awakening. You start noticing and you start asking questions, and then you start discussing more and more. And I mean, that's basically how you started.
Yeah, I wanted to get rid of chemtrails. That's how I discovered Orgonite. Is I learned, and it sounded like total nonsense to me when I first heard about it, but I learned online that people were using Orgonite against chemtrails. I thought it was total BS, but then I heard Ken Rolla speak about it scientifically in a presentation, in an interview. It was like a show about how to make Orgonite. They had a little piece of his information, and then I saw one of his public talks, and I thought this was worth trying. So my husband and I, at the time, we were still just, we weren't married yet at the time, but we were working together on this for years. We thought, what do we have to lose? So we made the Orgonite, and we saw it clear the sky that first day while it was just curing outside. So we really were just doing it to get rid of pollution. We didn't know about the energetic stuff. We knew that the Orgone Energy was coming from the Orgonite. We knew it was an energy device, but we didn't understand that they were using deadly radiation to make that stuff happen up there. So we thought we were just clearing pollution. Turned out we were flipping the energy, and those entities couldn't even exist in our atmosphere. And that's why sometimes you'll see days with no planes. Take a look up there. It's not just that the chemtrails aren't sticking. You'll see days where no one's flying through because the energy is too clear for them to come through.
Yeah. And it's interesting, and I think I told you this before. Before I made my spiral wheel, and I would see them, doing the crisscrossing. I would go out there, and I would just start sending energy to it, and I would start talking to Gaia, and I would just say, Gaia, I don't consent to this. I don't appreciate what they're doing up there. And then I would talk to the elements. And while I'm out there, I start to see it clearing above my house.
Mm-hmm. It's your intention.
And yes. Yeah. And it's so fascinating because I'm above Salida. So it's clear above my house, and Salida's just sucked in. And then maybe a couple hours later, they'll come back, crisscross, and then I'll go back out there.
Yeah, they always come back. They're like that. They're a computer program. They're artificial intelligence. They don't even understand any of what's going on.
No, they can't. They just can't, because how could they do that in the first place? So you think it's like the archons?
That's a word for it. That's what people call them. I think that gives them too much power, because that means ruler.
The dark
That's what it actually means. But yeah, that's what people call them. And I have a friend who calls them the ascorns, which I like better. But yeah, they do have a presence here, that they're unwanted, but most people don't know they're here. And the reason that they're able to keep on doing what they're doing is because people are unaware of it. When you start working with Orgonite, you start to see more strange things up there. I started having UFO sightings, orbs. There are more orbs in my book. I mean, I'd only had that. I had just pulled up a quick little folder of images I put together just to show a few quick examples. But in my book, there's way more. If you go to my website and you look at my blog, I have years and years and years of photos of this stuff. And yeah, there's some weird stuff up there. But once you start working with the life force energy, you start to notice the stuff. So whether they're coming around more or whether you're noticing more, it's hard to say, but it coincides.
Well, when you're working with the coil is the spiral is Kundalini. Okay, we'll start with this. Kundalini is a Sanskrit word for spiral or coil, and it's conscious energy. It shows where conscious energy is coming in. That's why we see water pools, whirlpools in the shape of the coil. We see the coil in spider webs and like on snail shells and things like that. So it's showing us where the cosmic energy is coming in. So I'm thinking that these people like you, when you're working with this, you are working with this conscious energy. It's increasing your conscious awareness, your level of consciousness. And I think everybody who's doing that is raising their level of consciousness and inadvertently raising the vibration.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're trying to make the planet inhabitable for these corn
Cornholes.
cornholes.
I mean, that's what's happened is okay, so I want to bring back to what you mentioned about the symbiosis earlier. You mentioned a symbiosis with humans and Earth. That's the real symbiotic relationship. That's what we should be cultivating. But what we've done is, and we don't know it, okay, I know it, you know it, but most human beings do not know what's ended up happening is they have entered into a new symbiosis with the parasites, the parasitic entities that are feeding off the planet. So what we have now is instead of a relationship with our Earth and with our creator, we have a relationship where we're completely interconnected with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the enemy. And have you seen the movie The Matrix?
Yes.
Okay, so remember when Morpheus shows Neo what happened to the world when Neo wakes up, when they get him out, they say that humans gave birth to artificial intelligence, and this is the result. They destroyed the world and took over humanity. Humans were just in a they're all in a vat of goo, just being fed off of by these entities, living in a daydream, like a dream state where they don't know what's really going on. That's a physical version of what's actually happening. So we're in a symbiotic relationship with artificial intelligence. It's done through technology. It's done voluntarily. People don't know they're doing it, but they do it voluntarily. And the smartphone is literally a tracker that a parasite can use to know where you are, to alter your brain waves, the way your body functions, and plug in. When you say, oh, there's entities attached to my lower chakras, that's how it's done. It's not to say they can't do it without the phone, but the phone helps. And most people are through and through controlled by it. You can literally have a thought and the phone will advertise to you based on your thought. I've heard of this happening to people. So it's connected to your mind, it's connected to your body. And yeah, it's all etheric, but people don't understand. They've become so interconnected with artificial intelligence. They're fully controlled by it. Even if they have some of their own thoughts, it's mostly the AI suppressing the consciousness, controlling the body, and getting it to do what they need and feeding off it. It's a food source for them, just like in the movie. What we need to do is we need to break that symbiosis, because that's what's infecting our whole planet. People are parasitically infected, and this is a parasitism, which is a type of symbiosis, but it's unhealthy, and it will kill us if we don't get out of it.
Right. Well, and I think they've talked, the one thing that I also will not sign up for is that Sirius music.
Oh yeah.
Satellite music.
Satellite radio. I don't know what satellite does. I haven't been able to determine how satellite affects us, but I can tell you that I don't have it anymore. I had satellite internet, and I'm happy to have switched to hardwired 100% cable. I don't think it's as bad as the frequencies coming out of the phones and the Wi-Fi. I know this because I've lived with both and I've seen the difference. The absolute worst is the cell phone, and right after that's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But the satellite, yeah, I'm also skeptical of it. I'm not sure. I mean, it's out there anyway. It's just like, out there.
But it's like if they know where my car is, they know where I am.
Right. Oh yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah, I was thinking in the house, but that's true. You're carrying it with you. And so yeah, they do. And I would be very uncomfortable with that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes in a rural area, you're stuck with satellite internet, which we were for some time. It didn't seem to be a problem because within the house, we didn't use Wi-Fi. So that was out there, and inside the house, it was all hardwired. But now that we've gotten rid of it, it hasn't really changed much for me, but I'm happy to be free of that just because it's one other thing, that we could reduce.
Right. Right. I know I have, my internet is Wi-Fi, and I can actually, hook up my laptop to the connection instead of just letting it go all, well, and your my printer's Wi-Fi
They're all
too.
Wi-Fi now. They put Wi-Fi
Yeah,
in everything. I mentioned that in my book as well. They add it to everything because what they're trying to do is keep us in like a soup of deadly frequencies that keep our consciousness low. And that's how they keep us under control. We live under a frequency fence. It's a prison of the mind. So in the movie The Matrix, the human bodies were literally in these vats of goo and these stacked up in these columns. But in real life, it's not like that. But we're still their cattle. They still control humans, and they do it through a frequency fence. So rather than putting us in a physical cage, they put us in a mental cage. And all of this stuff, digital cameras now, they all include Wi-Fi. So I had to buy an old model of camera that didn't have it. Printers all include Wi-Fi. I would just say, yeah, if you have to use it, then turn it off when you're done so it's not emitting. But that's the
yeah,
problem, is they want it in everything. And then the Google Homes, these smart homes, Alexa,
yeah,
play my favorite song. Alexa, what time is it? This is
yeah,
the AI symbiosis that I'm talking about. This is what humans need to break.
yeah. I am not interested in any of that. I'll get up and get my own damn food out of my refrigerator. I'll get up and turn the heat to temperature I want. I don't want my house doing anything for me.
Good. That's good.
Nothing.
It's not so hard to get up and use your body. And it creates more stagnation too in the body. You're just
Yeah,
laying around all the time. It's terrible. They're turning us into just like EMF fed cattle.
yeah.
And then
You know, there's
they feed off of our negative emotions.
they do. They really do. Well, like that movie, Roddy Ronnie Piper, We Live.
They
They
live.
live.
That's in my
Where
book too. I mentioned that.
did you? Okay, okay. I mean, with the sunglasses, and they put the glasses on, and then they can see the truth, what's really going on around them. I
Hmm.
mean,
And
yeah,
in my book, I make a reference to how the sunglasses are like Orgonite, because in real life, because in Hollywood, everything's physical. They have to do it that way to make it obvious so people understand it. In real life, Orgonite is the sunglasses. When you start using it, all of a sudden you can see through them. I can actually see them among us now, just like in the movie. And they
okay,
are among us. They
yes,
do live.
yes,
They live, we sleep.
yeah. Oh, yes, yes. Wow, wow. Well, is there something in this book that just kind of blew your mind? What was the one thing on your journey that just kind of blew your mind, or made you totally change your belief system?
I think that my mind changed the most when I figured out it happened around. It's hard to say what the singular thing that did it, but around the year of 2015 and going into 2016, that's when we really realized that everything we were being taught by the anti-geoengineering groups was just part of the government rhetoric. And that's when we started having encounters with other crafts and realizing that it really was an ET war on humanity. I think that was the biggest mind blower. Was I would say one of the singular most crazy incidents that happened around that time period that really shifted my mind was after we went up north, we gifted through the Central Valley all the way up to Grass Valley, California. I did a talk there. That was my final destination, but we gifted about 300 tower busters between LA and Grass Valley and then up to Redding. Part of that trip was to go to Dane Wigington's event in Redding and share hope about Orgonite with people there. And it was really a hopeless event. And it was on a day where there was a wildfire. The atmosphere was dreary. It was hot. It was depressing. There was all these depressed people being told we're being sprayed and there's nothing you can do about it. So Gabe and I, as part of our gifting trip, we went there to bring hope to people. That's when we got kicked out, because we had already been warned that we would get kicked out and they'd call the cops on us. So that was a huge trip. But the thing that happened on the way home is what really blew my mind. When we were done with this whole journey and we were finishing our gifting trip, we were still tossing Orgonite even after dark. And we were on the 5. We were north of where Bakersfield is, somewhere in the Central Valley there. And I couldn't see anything, but I said, I think we need one here. And I had just started tossing because Gabe was tossing and I was driving, and then I was falling asleep. So he started driving and I started tossing. I tossed an Orgonite, and then on the second Orgonite I tossed, I said, I think we need one here. And then I looked right after I tossed it, there were 3 cell towers there. So I knew I got it in the right place. Not a moment later, in a field next to the car, a singular light was speeding towards our car. And it was in the field, not the freeway, because we were in the rightmost lane because I had just tossed. A craft that I thought was a helicopter, but made no sound. It was orb-like. It was shiny, black and white, tinted windows. I couldn't see what was in it. With one single light, came up next to the car, trailed next to our car for many feet. And I was looking at it, trying to see who it was and what it was. It was right above the ground, traveling very fast. And I looked, I couldn't see anyone in it. And in an instant, it took a hard 90-degree turn and just veered over the field and just went away. And at that moment, I knew that there was something crazy going on energetically. There's no way that could have been a helicopter or a human plane. No human craft can travel above the ground, just a few feet above the ground, that fast, that with that agility, and then just speed off over the field. So this happened right after I got my proof that Geoengineering Watch and these anti-geoengineering people, the famous ones, are working for the government. And that's all in the book, by the way, that they're working for the government. And then I saw that something way beyond the government was responding to my Orgonite gifting. Immediately after I started gifting, intuitively gifting, knowing where to throw, that this thing came out. So that was a real life-changing moment, because everything changed for me in that trip. You know, I knew it wasn't humans anymore at that point. I knew the government was lying to us beyond just the standard lie that everyone hears, oh, those are contrails. I knew that those are chemtrails was a lie too. That's where it all started to click for me.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I was one of those people for a long time that thought, oh, they're spraying chemicals on us because they just want to dumb us down and make us sick. You know, and when I started doing the energetic stuff, and then in talking to you, then all that other stuff was clicking. Oh, there's something else going on here.
There's something else going on here. Yeah, a lot of the pollutants that we have in our bodies, it's very easy to pollute our bodies with water and food and stuff like that. The main thing you want to do is just have a really clean diet of organic food, and you want to drink water that has no chemicals in it, reverse osmosis water or distilled water, something like that. People always say, oh, but you need your minerals. You get those from the vegetables. The water needs to be clean. Whatever you got to do to get clean water and food, you got to do that, because most of what's in there making you toxic is coming from there. As far as air pollution and all that, we still don't know. They say aluminum, barium, strontium. We still have no proof of that. We only have government actors saying that's what it is. Everyone who says that works for the government and says that's what it is. If they're saying that, that's what they want us to hear. So we don't know what it is. If there is anything up there, what we do know is that Orgone Energy repels the pollution. I can actually show you one more picture or a couple more if you'd like, because I could show how it lifts it. Because for anybody who's scared of any toxins or pollution in the atmosphere, all you need to do is get Orgonite and remove DOR sources so you increase your own consciousness. So I say always, don't use a cell phone. If you have to use it, at least turn it off when you sleep. Do what you can, because you need to increase your own consciousness and you need to bring in Orgonite. But I could show you a picture that illustrates how it's a lifting motion, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me find that.
Yes.
It's going to take me a minute because I am a slowpoke with this technology.
No, it takes a while to do it anyways, so.
Okay, cool. I'm going to show you the
awesome.
lifting motion because I have this little folder I set up with just a few examples. So we're going to share my screen. And now I have some pictures. All right. So first off, I'm going to show you this one because this one will definitely interest you since we're talking about the ET influence. Just to
Right.
make it clear the difference between what humans do. I'm not saying that humans don't modify the weather. This on the left, you see human weather modification, cloud seeding. That's a chemical, silver iodide. That's a metal put in the atmosphere. So I'm not saying that they don't put stuff up there, but as you can see, it's light aircraft and it's stuff coming from a hillside. This is in Pasadena, or I think it's in the San Gabriel Mountains. Back in, it was in 2016, we were having a very rainy season. And so they were trying to cover up the Orgone Energy aspect to that and saying it's our cloud seeding doing it. So they started doing cloud seeding while it was already raining. So that's what this is a picture of. This was in LA, or in the LA area.
Oh,
This is human stuff. On the other
okay.
side, you see what the extra dimensional stuff is completely different. You got much higher altitude crafts. They're completely silent. That you can rarely see them very well unless you zoom in with your camera. Some of them are the ones that are low flying. They make no sound. So it's very interesting. You've got a lot of real high flying ones and you've got low ones, but none of them make a sound, and they all put out the same type of trails. And then you end up with this murky sky at the end. This is what that kind of energetic pollution produces. You see a DORized
Yeah.
sky. That's a sky hit with deadly radiation. That sky there, that was taken during a really bad time in my life when I didn't have the energy to clear it. And you could see the result of being low energy. But so people don't have to worry or be scared, I want to show you how Orgonite and Orgone Energy actually lifts. It has a lifting motion on the atmosphere. So you can literally see when the energy shifts, all of this hazy white stuff here, it starts to spiral up and away. And you start to see little clumps of water vapor clouds forming out of it. And it's almost like it's being thrown upwards. Can you see how it's almost thrown up and away from the earth?
Yes.
So this is the
Yes.
effect it has on pollution and on clouds. Any air pollution present in the atmosphere is lifted up and away, and any water vapor trapped in that positively ionized energetic field is freed. And then you end up with these wonderful clouds by the end. So this is how it also lifts pollution. You can literally see, if you look in a valley like where you live, you can look down in the valley and you can see that smog layer.
Mm-hmm.
If you gift that area with Orgonite, you can watch it. And we do this, we see this in the Central Valley, because where we live in the mountains, we can look down at the valley. You can actually see the pollution lift. You see the brown layer of smog get higher and higher and higher. Then you see the land, and then it starts to turn gray. It turns from brown to gray. And then it eventually, clouds come out of it and it evaporates. So water vapor is trapped in there with the pollution. Pollution lifts, like in those pictures, it spirals up, lifts up, and clouds form, and then everything clears.
So some people say that they've taken pictures of ET, positive ET crafts, vacuuming up the chemtrails. Is that another myth?
I haven't seen it. I've been watching the sky for years and years and years, every day. And I have thousands and thousands of pictures, and that is something I have never seen.
Yeah.
We've done gifting trips over thousands of miles. We've gifted major cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland, and Berkeley, that area, Bakersfield. We've gifted through many cities that we haven't even done in completion, like Sacramento. We have to finish that one. We've done Portland, Seattle, Las Vegas. Santa Fe, New Mexico was a fun one. That didn't really need it. We were just there anyway, so we gifted it. And we've gifted just thousands of miles of freeway between all these places. And I've taken pictures the whole time. And no, I have seen these types of pictures that I show you of breaking chemtrails, of spiraling clouds, but no, I have never seen anything sweeping up that stuff. It does, eating it up or collecting it. It doesn't work that way. That's
Oh,
a myth that's put out by, there's another group of people. This is part of the disinfo section of my book where I talk about the different levels. There's a myth being put out there that we have no power at all. It's just bad ETs versus good ETs, and we're just bystanders. And that's a myth to take away human power and all the great stuff that human beings are doing. We are the ones cleaning it up. In the mainstream alternative media, the consciousness media that they want to make sure we don't get too conscious. So there's a couple of things they'll say. One, when there aren't chemtrails for a while or very few planes, they say, oh, the government's laying off. False, because the government's not doing it. It's a computer program. It's artificial intelligence. It runs 24/7. If they're laying off, it's because we repelled them. And the other myth is good ETs are coming in and cleaning it up for us. Total myth. Human beings are cleaning it up. This is all a disempowering narrative that's being done to keep us scared. So there's a whole set of there's a whole part of the media that's alternative to the mainstream, but it's just the next step for those of us who are starting to wake up. And that type of media attacks those who are just waking up, and it wants to get them before they become like us. before they figure out that they can just say a prayer and clear that stuff up. That's what they're trying to prevent.
I got a dog that's got to go out and go potty really bad. So I'm really interested in what you see now happening now. I know we've already seen that the wildlife is responding. As far as your gifting, I mean, would it still be good for people to gift and make Orgonite?
Yes.
Okay. Tell them that, and I'll put the poodle up to go potty.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have a video on my website, thechembo.com. It teaches you, if you go to the Orgone Energy section, there are a couple of videos on how to make Orgonite embedded right there, and you can learn to make your own. And there's never too much Orgonite in the world. And there are many places that I haven't gifted yet. My husband and I travel and gift far and wide, but we're just two people and we only have enough money to make a certain amount of Orgonite, and then we can't do it. So we have actually gifted at least, I would say at least 6,500 is our estimated amount of tower busters gifted into the environment, which is a lot. But we haven't done the Midwest. We haven't done the East Coast. So there's many, many places that need help. So you can never have too much Orgonite. And the video on how to make tower busters, it's on YouTube, but you can watch it on the site. They are very affordable to make. You can get any kind of resin. It can be cheap resin. It can be Bondo from Home Depot. Anything works, and you put that together with fine metal shavings, which are also very cheap, even free sometimes if you find a metal shop that'll give them to you. And I was just telling people the ingredients of the Orgonite tower busters.
Okay.
So it's resin that you can get really cheap resin for that. You can get really inexpensive shavings. Aluminum shavings are very cheap. You can get them from a metal shop for $1 or $2 a pound, or you might find someone who will give them to you for free. Copper coils, you just get a spool of copper wire at the hardware store, and then you make your copper coils around a pencil. The video explains all of it. And crystals, any quartz crystals, they can be rough, they can be broken pieces, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be pretty. So that's the simplest way to make a powerful Orgonite device. And the video's online, just follow the instructions and then gift to your heart's content. I mean, there's some instructions on the website also that explain how to get the most out of your gifting. So if you go to the Orgone Energy section, you'll see frequently asked questions, Orgonite myths debunked, and you'll see gifting instructions. If you follow those gifting instructions, you will get so much out of your Orgonite because we show how you can do it over a very large area for a very low cost. So yeah, never too much Orgonite. Orgonite kills the parasites. We gifted Silicon Valley, and that's when this whole chaos started with this virus, because we gave the parasites a computer virus. That's why they had to shut down the government. And then they wanted to overplay the flu this year because they needed to buy some time. So they called it COVID-19, computer virus 19. It also stands for Certificate of Vaccine ID AI. 19 is AI. So what they want to do is they want to keep us under control. And right now they're losing it because there's so much Orgonite that they can't function. And so they're trying to slow us down so they can catch up, but they're not. They're losing the battle.
Yeah. Well, you need a t-shirt that says, Orgonite kills parasites.
Yeah, that'll go over well in my small mountain community.
Yes.
That won't get me ostracized here.
Well, now I'm inspired. I should probably start making my own Orgonite and then putting it in my spiral. Now my spiral's 30 foot, And so it would take a lot of it.
Yeah,
But
we've made spirals out of Orgonite, like what you're working on. Not a 30-foot one, that's huge. But yeah,
yeah,
definitely if you put Orgonite in there. I also wanted to add, I was talking about my Tower Buster video because it's very inexpensive to make Tower Busters and anyone can do it. But I also have a video embedded on there on how to make small pyramids, which is actually a really good way to start because the resin I'm using on there, and this is all in the video, you just follow the instructions. I'm using Easy Cast, which is
I
low
saw it.
fume.
I saw your video. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a no VOC resin. You still should, they say no VOC. I still recommend you do it in a ventilated area, like outdoors,
Right.
or you could put it in a bathroom even with a fan blowing out the window, but or just keep it separate from you while it's curing, just to make sure you don't breathe it. But that's a real safe resin. You can get it at arts and crafts stores. You can get it online at Amazon, and there's a wholesale resin. That's another place you can get resin online. And it's not too expensive, but it costs a lot more than what we use on the Tower Busters. But you can make very beautiful decorative Orgonite using those instructions. And it's a great way to start because, like I said, it's low fume and you could get by without a respirator. But if you use a harsh resin like the Bondo and you make Tower Busters with a cheap resin, you're going to want some breathing protection.
Okay. Well, I know I have Tower Buster out in the horse barn, and then I have 2 in the house and 1 right outside the front door. So I could
Well, it's good.
probably
You
use,
have them around your property is great.
yeah,
Distributing around, and your medicine wheel is also contributing. And I also just
yeah,
want to add, for people who are scared about chemicals, they're worried about this being bad for the environment. The people have a real phobia about oil and petroleum. There's really nothing wrong with using oil petroleum products to make Orgonite. I mean, it's part of how it goes together. Or the Orgone accumulator that Wilhelm Reich invented used layers of organic and inorganic material. So with Orgonite, you're using organic and inorganic. The metal is inorganic and the resin is organic because it comes from the earth. So there's really nothing wrong with using petroleum products to make Orgonite. I just wanted to put that out there for people who are kind of anti-petroleum. Just because a few oil companies are doing bad things to the planet doesn't mean that this resource that comes from the earth is not good to use for a good purpose, you know?
right.
And
Well,
also as far as breathing protection, that's just part of the process of making Orgonite. So if you want to avoid harsh chemicals, you can use the crafting resin because it's really, really innocuous.
right. Well, well, you guys, if you want to liberate our planet and yourself, I highly recommend you read her book. I mean, plethora of information there. And
Thanks.
so, yeah, great talk, girl. I
Thank
just,
you.
you're so knowledgeable.
Well, thanks. So it's been my life for 6 years, going on, say, I was going to say going on 7. It's about 7 years since I started writing about chemtrails, but 6 years since we've been working with Orgonite, and my life changed, my writing changed. If you look at my blog from before Orgonite, I didn't know very much. So yeah, the Orgonite's really taught me. I've learned from doing this.
Well, and that is your way of coming in and being service to others. You know,
That's
that's
what
what
I do.
it's all about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am a servant.
Yes.
And I thank you
Yes.
for your open mind. You're one of the few people that's out there online that really understands the power of the mind and how our consciousness connects with the earth. And it's just nice to talk about it in those terms because many people, they're real caught up in 3D stuff, government,
Yeah. Mhm.
military, they're doing this to us. No, we can turn that around anytime.
Yep. Well, it's the same as the people who are waiting for the ETs to come and save us. You know, I mean, um, some of the channelers are saying that the ETs are saying, "You humans made your mess. You humans got to clean it up now."
We have
You
to. They
know,
won't come to us until we do. Like the
right?
Venusians who spoke with George Adamski. I don't know if you've read any of his books, but I
That's
just,
raw Venusians. That's raw law of one material.
it's Venusians from Venus.
Right, because that's
Yeah.
where they actually raw is. They went through the ascension that we're going through right now,
They've,
and so they
yeah, yeah,
yeah
they're way beyond us.
Yes, like millions of years.
Yeah, and what the
Millions.
Venusian said to George Adamski is, well, he first off, he said they can't be in the atmosphere of this planet very long. It's too low vibrational. It's too dense for them. And so people like us, I don't know if you ever feel this way. I feel the density of the vibration, and I feel very tired sometimes by life
Yes.
on Earth. It's very dense vibration. The Venusians can't handle it for more than a short time. And they also said, we are men and women just like you. They're humans just like us, but of a higher vibrational level. So they're way beyond us, and they also can't do anything for us here until we get to a higher level. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yes. So this is a perfect place to start. You know, look beyond the 3D construct of a chemtrail and, get into the orgone and let that naturally expand your consciousness.
Yeah, and you
And
could
the,
start even before you get organized. You can start by going up there, going outside and laughing at them and telling
yes,
them they're powerless. And you know what? You will be so surprised. You'll see the chemtrail break. I have people
yes.
now emailing me who have read my book or looked at my videos online, and they're telling me what they're doing. They're using sacred words from their faith, and they're of all different faiths, different
Hmm.
religions, different backgrounds. They're using sacred words and prayers, and they're watching it happen before their eyes.
Yes,
It's getting
yes.
out.
Yeah. Well, and it's because I have seen enough videos of young people out there with their cameras, their phones, filming it and just being totally pissed off.
Well, the phone is doing it to them, and they're holding the thing that's
Yeah.
screwing up their consciousness and that's making them generate chemtrail skies. They're putting out the energy field to make that stuff stick. It's enforcing it. It's a vicious cycle.
It really is. It's so much awakening to be had
Yeah.
here. I tell you, people, it's they call this a great awakening, but there's a lot of things that I see still not changing.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's going to take a long time. That's why I
yeah.
talk about flipping the energy so much. That's why we gift Orgonite to flip the energy. Orgonite gifting, according to Don Croft, who is one of the early Orgonite gifters, and I wrote about him a little in my book. He says a lot of great stuff. He says a lot of dubious stuff. So I gave the most balanced account I could of what I've learned from him. But I have read his book, and it's very interesting. And he says gifting Orgonite will end global tyranny, and I do very much agree with that.
I think so. I think so. Yes, yes. So, well, great, wonderful. I'm so happy that we finally got a chance to do this.
Thank you.
Um, you are a pioneer, girl.
Yeah, I guess so. It was something I never could have thought of on my own. It came to
Yes.
me through, divine source. This was God given.
And, but sometimes when people are saying something different than the normal narrative, they really do get a lot of crap that goes their way
Oh
too.
yeah. Oh, I do. Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't even get into it right now. So much of
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah. Well, you just keep making your orgonite and keep that around you. And you got your precious horse that's helping you.
Yeah,
And
he's wonderful. I gave him a
well,
special acknowledgement in the book. He's the
did you?
rescue. Yeah, he's the rescue Mustang.
Okay. Yes. Well, we're both horsewomen and we
Yeah.
both rescue. So,
He
well,
rescued
okay,
me.
Sharon. Yeah. Yes. That's how it usually goes. So
Yeah.
is your book on Amazon? Are you going to put it on Amazon?
It's on my website.
It's on your
I
website?
decided to just do it on the website. I had thought about it. I'm not saying that I'll never do that, but right now it makes the most sense for me to just sell it on the website. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, we're doing small runs. We actually did our second run. We're just doing runs of like 100 at a time. So I'm happy
Okay.
that people are buying it and learning from it. But yeah, we're doing small runs of it. It's available on the website, thechembo.com. And at this time, I didn't feel too comfortable getting into a business relationship with Amazon. We've had difficulties working with these corporate giants online, so we just kind of do our own thing now. And so, yeah, if you come to the website, though, you can get the book there.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So I'll put it, down in the description where you can reach her, where you can get the book. So
Thank
great. Are
you.
you going to write another one?
Yes, I just don't know
Oh,
when. I don't know what or when yet. I think things have to play out a little bit more. I need to keep an eye on things. It's about 5 years of work, more than 5 years of work that went into this book. So
yeah.
it takes many years to see patterns and to be able to make determinations. And everything in the book is backed up with hard evidence. So for the next one, it's going to be just the next step in the war, probably, because we have seen massive changes recently. I mean, if you could see, humanity is going out of control right now. And the reason for that is because the symbiotic relationship between the AI and the humans is breaking down because of orgonite gifting. So even people are still using their smartphones and still involved in it and don't know. The symbiosis is being affected by the high OR field. That's why you see humans going crazy right now. That's why
Yep.
you see all the lockdowns were happening because the AI was losing control. All these protests and riots and things are happening because they've gone too far. There's too much violence against humanity. And the craziness, though, that's happened, not the protests, but the craziness, the riots, the out of control stuff, that is a really good example of that breakdown of the symbiosis, where people are losing control of themselves because their controllers are losing control of themselves. Wouldn't it be a good time right now to take control back of our minds?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and that's how we should have used this lockdown.
Well, I think a
Going
lot
like,
of people did. I think
yeah, I think they are. I really think, yeah, because I sure did.
the next
I
book I write will probably be something about the next steps that have happened here regarding the computer virus. But the thing is, it's impossible to say right now because I'm constantly amazed by what happens in this world. And the next thing, you cannot even imagine it right now, what the next thing is going to be. The etheric war is just mind blowing when you're involved in it.
Well, you need to have a section in that book where you have like your little minions out there gifting and doing their thing and how they've been transformed. So that might be fun too.
Well, yeah, I do love hearing from people about, I don't know if I call them my minions, but that makes me laugh. Because organite gifting is a disorganized and unorganized effort. And that was another really good thing that Don Croft said, is that with organite gifting, we don't get together and have a movement. It's everyone's doing it on their own, because when you get people together, it gets compromised and infiltrated, like all organizations that are there to help people get compromised and infiltrated. We're seeing that right now, with what's going on in the world, where people mean to do good, like Black Lives Matter. People want to do good, but it gets infiltrated by Hillary Clinton and George Soros. You see how, so evil will always infiltrate, even in small groups. If we get together to gift organite, one person who's mind controlled by that tracking device that they refuse to get rid of could screw up the whole operation. So that's why we do organite gifting in a solitary way, but then we can share our experiences later.
Yeah. Well, it is. You can stay in your own consciousness that way. You can go in within and do your thing that you are prompted to do instead of being prompted by outsourced sources. So
Right.
yeah, individual. So
It's all just a awakening one by one. So organite gifting will be your own conscious awakening, and you're going to
right.
have your own journey, and everyone has their own journey with it. But what I did with my book is I'm hoping that people can see the similarities between their journeys and mine, so that they can know that they're not alone, and that the weird stuff they're seeing, I saw it too, and I have pictures of it, and the things that they're feeling, the emotions and the internal upheaval as your consciousness changes, because it is an upheaval, that I went
Yes.
through it too. Wilhelm Reich went through it too. We all go through it. So we can all share that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a small rite of passage for all of us, something that we all have to go through. So, well, cool. Well, great girl. I think we went over an hour, but that's
No
okay. So,
problem.
we
Thank
always
you.
have so much fun.
I love talking to you. Thank you for your open mind and how much you
Yeah,
understand all this information.
yeah. So, well, great. And everybody get out there and get her book. Support. We have to support. That's part of service to others, is supporting everybody. and learning more and getting that expansion going. So wonderful. Now I'm wondering if I can stop the recording.
I think we both do. Let's see. Let me try it myself. It's right up there. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Denice.
All